How's it going, guys? Okay, I need some volunteers. Raise some hands. I need 3 volunteers. All right, this guy right here. Pretty excited. The guy in the beard. Is that politically correct? Come on up. Come on. And the pretty girl in the front. Okay, so I'm going to give each of these guys a dot to put on their forehead. This is a riddle that we're going to do throughout the talk. Each person's going to get either a pink dot or a green dot, and eventually they'll have to figure out what color dot is on their head. So if you guys could all close your eyes, please. Naturally, the audience can see all the dots. They can't see their own, but they can see each other's. No cheating. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. Okay, very good. Where's that clicker? We'll get back to you guys in just a little bit. You may open your eyes. I'm sorry about that. That's the X? That's the X. I'm going to go ahead and get started with my challenge. Who here went to summer camp? Raise your hand. It's the best, right? Summer camp. Like, I grew up an only child. I didn't have brothers and sisters in the house. Summer camp was my haven. It was my home away from home. That's where I made friendships. That's where I had my first, I loved camp. I went to a camp called Tamarack in Michigan, where I'm from. You know, it's one of those flyover states on the way to LA. Camp, growing up, because I loved it so much, as a camper, my dream was to be a counselor and to give back and to be a role model for the kids the same way that my counselors were for me. You know, to be a counselor and then eventually to be a supervisor, maybe take out an Alaska trip. And so eventually I was a counselor, and you can see me here kind of pouring some water on poor little campers. And it was awesome, and I loved it. And then I came back a second time as counselor, but that summer I was fired. And it was terrible. It was life-shattering, because here was my childhood dream just destroyed. Here's what happened. My friend Jordan and I were on the 7th grade boys hiking trip, and we decided one night, the last night of the trip, we wanted to hike 11.2 miles to the girls' campsite. And we did that all night long, hiked all the way to the girls', yada, 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 hiked back, got back before morning, before the campers woke up. Everything was fine, or so we thought. We get back to camp, and a little bit later, we're summoned to the director's office. Long story short, 11:45 p.m. on July 29th, I find myself signing resignation papers for Camp Tamarack. I know the time because it was 15 minutes before my 18th birthday, and I celebrated my birthday alone in a room in the clinic. That was devastating. The problem, though, was my reaction, because all I wanted to do was look at everybody else and blame everybody else. How could the campers talk about it like that? How could they tell people? How could the tripping staff? The guy gave me permission. He gave me a flashlight. He said I could do it. The director, couldn't she understand this was summer camp and we were campers? This is how the counselors were. People would have praised them for hiking. I had all the excuses in the book, but the one person I did not look at was myself. And that was the most important part. I had to really look at myself and to realize, no, this wasn't their fault. This was my fault. Eventually, I was able to do that. Real quick, guys, let's take a break. Let's look at each other. Raise your hand if you see at least one pink dot. If you see a pink dot, raise your hand. Okay, now that we have that information, see who can figure out what color dot you have. We'll get back to you. Okay. Next, I want to talk about the friendship circle. How are we doing on time? Thank you. So the friendship circle. This was actually another mistake I made that led to the friendship circle. I had a lot of challenges in my life. Most of them are mistakes that were my own fault, and luckily I've been able to learn from a lot of them. Here's another. 8th grade. Our class goes on a trip to Washington, D.C. My friend Jonathan and I decide we're going to go into the teacher's room, her office, on her desk, and we're going to find the sheet of paper with the list of hotel rooms for Washington, which we weren't allowed to know. And we find that list, and we run around and we share it with everybody, and we're excited, but she wasn't as excited, the teacher. She figured it out, and in front of the whole grade at an assembly, she suspended us from school for a day. Got suspended for finding out our hotel room. That's how I looked at it at the time, right? Part of the suspension was we had to do community service for a day. And we chose to do it at the time, a brand new place called the Friendship Circle. It's now all around the world. It's an amazing facility. The Friendship Circle is a place for children with special needs. It's a place for them to be themselves. They get to come here, and you're paired up with a special friend, and you go to the gross motor room or to the foam pit. There's a whole village downstairs with a fake bank and library and pet shop, drugstore, everything, all kinds of life simulations for these children to feel comfortable and to practice the things that they need to do for life. And that day was so meaningful to me and Jonathan that we actually committed to volunteering every week for the following 5 years. So what's the point here? We made a mistake, and it turned, luckily, into something amazing. The fact is, by going to the Friendship Circle for that one day, we were able to fall in love with this concept and be inspired by it and to commit to volunteering for the next 5 years. The directors of Friendship Circle talk often about how, yes, the special friends get a lot out of it, but really it's the volunteers that get the most out of it, and it's true. We got to see these young people, for the first time, feel that they're seen as people. If you can't tell, this is a theme. Seeing. These people, these young children feel that they're seen as outsiders, but at the Friendship Circle, they're seen as people. And that inspired me, and that eventually led me to start a venture called Welzoo, which I'm shamelessly promoting here today, as you can see. Welzoo. Welzoo, to put it simply, and this is my project, this is what I work on full-time at WeWork. Welzoo is a browser start page that donates free funding to any nonprofit of your choice. Let me say that again. You just make welzoo.com your start page in Chrome, Safari, Firefox. It's just a website. And every day you're on the internet, we're going to donate free money to that cause. It can also be a student org. That's Welzoo. We're really close to $100,000, as you can see, which we're very proud of. And the way it works is the top bar shows how much has been raised, and the rest of the page is a piece of sponsored content, which fuels the donations that are made. So, interestingly enough, that one is Wow Talks. Let me back up for a second. So at Welzoo, it's easy to look at a product that's functioning like this and to say, oh, it seems so seamless, they didn't have any issues. But the truth is, like any other company, we've had plenty of issues. We continue to have plenty of issues and challenges, and we learn and we grow from them. We had issues finding funding. We had issues arguing over what the concept would be. You name it, we faced it. But we've learned from all of them. And something interesting to note is the feedback that we get at Welzoo. So we get a lot of really heartwarming emails from charities and from student orgs saying, you know, we love you guys so much. If it wasn't for you, we couldn't do what we do. Thank you. And we love to share those around, and it really, you know, it boosts our morale. But sometimes we get negative emails as well, you know, once a year. And the truth is that those are the most important emails, because when you get honest negative feedback about what you're doing, that's the only way that you're going to grow. When you look and you see yourself, and you look inside, it's from those mistakes that you've made or from that feedback that you get. If you're honest and you actually take it into consideration and don't just dismiss it, but you see it objectively from outside yourself, that's how you're going to grow.
I got it. Take that.
How do you know?
Because if they had a green dot,
If
I had a green dot.
If you have, okay, all right, you got it. You want me to explain it?
Yeah.
Okay, basically, I think what Artur is saying, and he's right if he is that if Artur had a green dot, then when I asked these guys to raise their hands, if they saw a pink dot, raise your hands, guys. Everyone, raise your hand, you too, you see pink dots. This guy and this girl would have realized that the pink dots they're seeing are each other's, right? Because they both know that he's got a green dot. And if they're seeing each other's pink dots, then that means that they would realize
That I don't have.
that they have pink dots, and they would have given the answer. But because, is this what you were thinking? This is what you were thinking, right? Yeah. Because they didn't,
That means that I definitely have one.
which means you were able to see yourself.
See myself.
Thank you. Our goal at Welzoo, professional goal, 30 seconds. Oh boy, really simple. We want to, cure world hunger. We want to do whatever we can. It sounds silly. It's not. With the small percentage of internet users that we have right now on the site, we've been able to raise almost $100,000, and we believe we can impact communities all around the world by scaling the site up. Let me finish with two things. One is a quote by Steve Jobs. You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust the dots will somehow connect in your future. It's true. As you're making mistakes, as you're growing, you can't figure out what's going on, but if you make the right choices from those mistakes, you're going to succeed as a result, and looking backwards, you can connect the dots. I'm going to end off with my question, and that is, how often do we look at and see ourselves? Thank you. I want to thank my ringers. These are my partners, Artur and Zalman from Welzoo. Great guys. If you want some stickers, you can find them in the back. And this is Alana. Alana, is this a date? I think this is a date. I met Alana pretty recently. I think she's great, especially for coming out tonight. Thanks for coming. Thanks for listening, guys.